Hey, it's Spence from WPLaunchify, and today's masterclass is on how to do Fluent Form intakes of new customers and prospects and using some of the extra features, including modal. Now, there are lots of ways to do this, and I'm going to make a suggestion that might be controversial for some of you. I am not a fan of using modal overlays. In a responsive world where people have desktop, laptop, mobile, tablet, various screens, modals cause an interruption of the user flow. I personally am a fan of instead having somebody click a call to action and opening up the page in a new tab. Why? Two reasons. One, because that is less interruptive. It takes them to a new page, but leaves them a very courteous way to get back to exactly what they were doing without having to find the way to close the modal. Number two, is it feels to me more permissive in a world where people are already overwhelmed with things in their way. Imagine you wanted to check out at the grocery store and you knew what you wanted to buy, knew what you wanted to read, knew what you wanted to do, and somebody ran up to you and just got in your way with a sign that said, hey man, let's do this thing, like da da da. A little exaggerated, yes, but I just had coffee. That to me doesn't sound very much like the kind of thing that is friendly to, by the way, if you click this, I'll leave this open here for you to come back to later, and you can check out the offer that I have. Once you're done checking out and doing your business. You see, I don't agree with a lot of marketing tactics that maybe in the past might have been useful, because everything when it's whiz-bang new is exciting. But once people start to use it, like voice jail, not really cool. Nevertheless, here's how to manage the Fluent Forms modal operations. What we're going to do is, first of all, we need a Fluent Form. Bernie from KPI, Black Belt, has asked the question, and he's got always great use cases. So what we're going to use is the interested in signing up form. This is just a very simple form. It doesn't have a lot of options here. It's just really, it should be email and first name. Bernie has not set this up fully yet. I would probably set this up using the 2 columns, because you don't really necessarily need the above and below. But when you put it in place, if you make it narrow, the first name email isn't too bad. On my own sites, I actually do it where it's side by side. I want to show you a comparison because it's not super important to get into details of design in this masterclass. See how I do it? It's just really compact. But I'll just leave this alone knowing. So the real issue is how to display it with a modal. Now, normally you can put this into a page, and here we've got a page where we're using the shortcode. You can also, by the way, opening up over here, use the block that they have. So if I added before, I could use the pre-made block. That's not going to help me with the modal, but I want to show you this is normally how we do it. We type in Fluent, and we can see Fluent Forms, and then you could choose which of the forms from there you would like to display, right? In this case, interest in signing up. But you'll see over here, although we have a theme style and visibility, that doesn't provide the option of doing what we're about to do, which is to have a modal overlay. To do that, we want to use the additional syntax that is provided very helpfully by WP Managed Ninja. And here, I'll include this in this masterclass video, is the modal pop-up lightbox for Fluent Forms. And what we want to do is scroll down to this area here where we see we've got all kinds of cool parameters that we could use for the button that will trigger this modal. Normally, if you just put this on, we can put the button and a name, but I can even change the background color. I can even add special custom classes to it if I wanted to, that'll make it possible for other tracking. Like if they click the button with the class of, subscribe now. Whichever way you do it, just understand that the shortcode has parameters that we can modify. Now, he's got form ID. I'm going to replace what Bernie had put in with the additional parameters. And I'm going to make sure that the form is still the proper ID, a form number ID. Instead of click me, we're going to say, join now. And let's put an exclamation point. Background color, you can use hexadecimal. So you can use, for example, if you want, CC0011. I don't know what color that is, but that should be some kind of a red. Let's see what happens now. We should have a button that's going to say join now. Once this saves, let's take a preview of this page. And then I'm also going to show you, while we're here, how you can adjust the width of this. If you go to the section in Kadence, under the advanced, there's a very handy structure settings, maximum width. Take it back. In this case, we have to go up a level. We're going to go up a level into the row layout which is, Bernie did the right thing. He very handily put it here. What he didn't do properly, which I'm going to fix, is he made a 3-column row. We don't need that. Instead, let's just move this shortcode into the first column and change the row to 1. We only need 1 primary column here. Then we can change the row layout using custom content max width. Let's do something like 600 pixels. Nice. See, that avoids the need to have 3 columns where 2 of them are just being placeholders. Very simple design technique here. That's why I recommend using a row to hold all of your sections, because that's essentially going to give you control over not only the look and the feel, but also you can name the sections and so forth. Now, here's what's kind of unusual. This button is not quite centered. And also remember, we didn't add any other customization to this with CSS, but there might be a reason to do so. However, do notice that this thing is saying join now. And do notice the color is not honoring. So let's do background color. I want to see whether or not it respects hexadecimal. So let's just change that to red. We can always do this with CSS, and by the way, this is just an automatic built-in modal. There are also ways to do this otherwise. We can do this with custom CSS. Now notice, whatever's happening here is not affecting the color, but it is working for the button. And this might be because he's got something that's overriding all buttons with an important, which case we can go ahead and just customize it. So see where he said CSS my class? Let's do a new class, and I'm going to give you a little tiny taste of CSS here. So let's get rid of the background color, and instead we'll add a class, and we'll call this custom button. Why is this relevant? Because a little teeny bit of CSS will get you very far, as I'll show you in a second, either inline or in your general rules. The second thing is that this button itself is not quite centered, right? It looks like it's a little off kilter. So let's see if we can fix that with a little snippet of CSS. Before we do, let's make sure that this thing triggers, which it does. I don't know from what Bernie asked me if that was his problem. I think his issue was like, why is this so weird and why is it in a weird spot? Now, one more thing before I customize the CSS. There are other ways to do modal overlays, including just using a Kadence modal, which the Kadence modal might be better because the Kadence modal gives you control over the button and not showing the button, and it can even allow you to use a remote button. Let me just double check. There does not seem to be anything in here about doing a remote trigger with the class. Okay. This is something that maybe Fluent will add in the future, but it's not here. So let's show you, before I go on to the custom CSS, how you could trigger this in another way. If I wanted to, on this page, I could just go where the shortcode is, and instead of using the modal, let's do add before, and let's use the Kadence modal. So I'm going to type modal, and here we've got modal. That's the Kadence modal. It's blue. And now check what I can do. Now I have either the default button, which does have quite a bit of styling control, the box, the button. We can do a lot here, right? So Bernie, let's say we're going to say the same, join now. And if I want, I can just change this button. That's the box. Let's go to modal close button. Link styling. So we see we got link background, link color, link border. icon. We can do an icon on the left side. There's the theme colors instantly. Let's just use that for simplicity. Now let's just see what happens on the two parts. Number one, how the modal triggers, and number two, what the button looks like. So right off the bat, that's an improvement. And by the way, again, I can edit this in a million different ways, but just out of the box. Now, what happens when I trigger the Kadence modal? I get a blank box that I can adjust the size of. When I click this one, I get the form. Why don't I just take the modal content, put the form inside of it? Like magic. So I type form, and I use just what I showed you, Fluent Form. Oh, by the way, this is wrong. Ignore what I just said. That is the wrong form. That is the Kadence form. We want the Fluent Form. So we really need to do /Fluent. Use Fluent Forms. And here is where I will choose interested in sign up. Now, if I don't like the size of this modal, it's easy to style it because there's styling controls here. Modal box, styling. I can say how big, whether it's horizontal left or center. I'm going to do center. I could do padding. I believe there's even controls over how big the whole thing is with shadow. So let's just say for the sake of argument, I'm going to make max width on this. 600 is pretty good. I'm going to leave it at 600. Okay, now see this thing show link? That's going to be important in a second. Let's see what happens when I use the form embedded in the Kadence modal. Super awesome. Super awesome. Much better than having to deal with this. But let's see if we can make this match that. If I inspect this, and I'm not afraid of CSS, and you shouldn't fear the Reaper, CSS is your friend. It's the easiest of the languages. What we need to do is simply identify that new class is in place that I just gave it, which was my custom button, I believe. And if I look here with my inspector, what I'm looking for is, does my custom button show up anywhere? And this is what's interesting. I want to make this clear to everybody. Sometimes the stuff doesn't work out. Sometimes, even though they've got the shortcode, I am not seeing. I see here, class of custom button. That might be it. Hold on. It wasn't my custom button. I think it was custom button. So let's look at the page and what I put in there. Yeah, custom button. So it did work out. My apologies. So see where it says custom button is the class? All I need to do is click the plus sign. And now I can add the colors that I want. Color, pink. Oh, by the way, color is the wrong thing. It's background color. Background color, pink. Now I got to do important because something was in there from the theme, and I see it right here, button, background, global palette that was setting that color. I need to override that. Let's make it a better color. Let's do green. Actually, I don't need to use the imperative, so I can just say whatever color I want. Dark green. Okay, now width. Let's do 100%. Oh, pretty cool. Just 2 lines of CSS has allowed me to achieve what I need. Now, because this is very specific, it says the custom button. I know that it's a specific enough rule that it won't be bumping into other things. If I wanted to, I can add it to my appearance customizer CSS box. That would be the best place. But if I only wanted it to show just on this page, another way of doing it, Spence approved, is to use an inline HTML for the CSS. And the reason that it's Spence approved is because I have found that by putting the CSS here specifically, it protects us from what is doing what, where, when, and why. In other words, the CSS is inline. You cannot mistake it. So for this, I just type HTML. And I use the custom HTML block. Now, when you do this inline, you have to use the style tags. In the old days, we just frowned upon doing inline style. Now we've given up on that because Everything uses inline style for so many things. It's pointless to argue. If you are worried about optimization, you can still add this to the main customizer appearance additional CSS box. But it works nicely here because now I can put it right below the shortcode that I'm using. And I know that it's right there next to the modal. I will not be confused in the future what is going on with the page. Worth noting that inside of Kadence, you have the ability to also add custom CSS. So for example, if you went over here to the page settings, take it back. If you went over here to the 3 dots, there is I am wrong. When you go, I do this for a living, folks. When you go over here to the Kadence block controls, there is page scripts, custom CSS. Notice Spence 24/7 doing this stuff had to think 3 times about which is the right button to click. I guarantee you, if you put it inside of here, you or the next person is never going to know it exists. You're never going to figure it out. That's why I don't use this. That's why I instead put it inline. And then it also carries with the pattern. So if I want to reuse this pattern, it's got the CSS with it that works. So now let's compare my outcome. By the way, you would have to do a different color for the hover state in CSS as well if you wanted to achieve that rollover effect, right? Which is not hard. You just do the hover pseudo class and it's good. But notice I've got the top one and the bottom one. If I wanted to, by the way, what's nice is using the modal, I can still have access to the controls that would, if I needed to, I don't need to, put space below this, right? So I'd use advanced. I hate to be having to say, no, it does not. No, in this case, there are no controls for that. So I guess we'd have to just do it either with the spacer or you'd have to use CSS. This is the odd part. I got to tell you as a sidebar, this is the odd part about working with blocks made by third parties. There's just like the same idea, but 2 companies doing the same thing all different ways. And even in doing it, they've left out some important controls. Like, why is there not some space that I can add in, like with margin? Who knows? The way you could do it is you could put a spacer, a divider, which I don't like, but you could do it. You could add after and just do /divider. So we do / divide or space. And there's either a Gutenberg divider or there is a Kadence spacer block. So you see spacer or spacer divider. The spacer divider is a Kadence one, which is fine. And you can put a little line in there and you can adjust the height of it. Okay, let's see our final output. And we're going to call this a masterclass. We now have 2 different modals. We have the Kadence modal with the Fluent Form in it. We have the Fluent Form with the shortcode, and the color scheme does not override. So instead we assigned a custom class called custom button, used a very simple snippet of CSS, which I will put inside the club where this video lives. And now we get a different style of modal. It darkens the screen. It's a different size. You don't have as much control over this one as the Kadence. The Kadence one is nice because you can do a lot of cool controls. What I like about this too, in light of my earlier comments, notice this one doesn't take care of the whole screen and it's very clear how to get rid of it. This one, not so clear. Not so clear at all. What's going on? How do I get rid of this thing? So these are some of the reasons that you should probably consider the third option. The third option is none of this. If we were to go back to our form, you can either embed this form in its own page, or you can use the landing page option, which I rather like because it's a standalone thing, but it can be opened in a different tab. If you go to landing page, you can customize this to your heart's content in terms of styling and what it shows and color schemes and buttons. But here's the neat thing. You copy this link, copy link address, save this. Now, we could put another button here. Let's do it above the modal. Add before. Let's just do a button using advanced buttons. So we type button, and I want to make sure to choose buttons advanced. That's the Kadence, not the default Gutenberg, which unfortunately, not so great. We type join now. Now, we have full control over this button, which is awesome. So as a style, let's make it similar. We're going to go full width. Looks very similar to the theme, doesn't it? We simply now paste the URL in for that landing page. Save. Notice if I wanted to put space, I think it's already built into this one, thankfully, but notice now we've got bottom margins by default. Ben Rittner, is that so hard to put in some space controls for modal? I really would appreciate if when I went to the modal, it also had space controls. That would be really awesome. Don't understand why it does not. Do not understand. Okay, let's see what this looks like. The thing is, Ben and Hannah do an amazing job, and they're trying to please everybody for all reasons. And I'm saying, look, if we could just get back to everything being the same as a starting point, we can add additional things onto it. When you make 6 different products that do the same thing and they all have different controls, you're hurting everybody. That's my point. Okay, here, watch what happens. Click, and this takes you to this special landing page that can be stylized, which by the way is super awesome, but we want to make it to open in a new tab. So I go back over here to the controls and look how cool this is. All I do is say, open in new tab. Now, I want to show you something too. I wouldn't use this. There's also a built-in video pop-up, but it only works with videos. So it's not going to work with this form. Open in new tab is what we want. And when we do that, let's try it one more time. We now have 3 ways to manage this very important feature, which is getting new signups. Join now, open new tab. Why does Spence like that? Because this page is still open on my iPhone. This page are still open on my browser. I don't need to wonder what the heck it is that I need to do to close this. I just close it. Open, close. Now, if I looked at this on mobile, just to belabor the point, watch what happens. Here's my mobile. It opens very nicely into what is clearly a different page on mobile. If this simulator works, let's see. The simulator might not be friendly to this, but in the real world, it definitely would. Not sure why it's not helping me on the simulator. Let's see as a comparison what the modals do. This one's quite nice. This is the one that was done with the Kadence Modal because you can adjust the font sizes and things to make that look good. Let's see what this one looks like. It too looks quite nice, but I feel similarly lost. What am I supposed to do to get back to where I was before you so rudely interrupted me? I think what's happening with this is just because I'm in a browser simulator, it doesn't know what to do with itself because it's like, it's trying to open up a new tab, but the simulator isn't allowing it to do so. If I did this, if I remove the simulator, I think I can just show you by the screen, but you get the idea. I'm going to call it a masterclass. If you like this, I encourage you to come join me at WPLaunchify. Get into the club. The club is free for anybody who is either subscribed to any of my products or services, or you can get access for $15. But all this great stuff is archived in here, conversations. This is just the early days of the club. But really what I want everybody to do is book a free call with me. Let's talk about your business and the things you need. And ultimately what I'm going to try to sell you is to get either the full kit for Minute Launch or parts of it. And that includes the software, the unlimited email support from me, as well as the hosting from rocket.net, because in most cases, people have a host that is causing them pain and problems. This starts as little as $20 a month, so you really have nothing to lose, and it's money back guarantee on everything except for my hands-on support. This is Spence. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.